I've heard that life is what you make it. I say make room to grow. I'm your host, LaWanda Dockery, and this is the Make Room to Grow podcast. It all started with a dream about growing food, and who would ever imagine that growing food would lead to me learning about personal growth and development? Well, it did, and I want to bring you along for this beautiful ride. Thank you so much for joining me. Hello, Grow Nation. How have you been, you guys? I missed you so much. It is Memorial Day, and I had to come on to motivate y'all to get out in your gardens. You might say, I don't have a garden. Well, let this be the year that you start. There's never a better time than right now. My husband and I were reflecting just on our gardening journey earlier. We were taking a ride somewhere, and we were talking about the fact that we really did not know what we were doing in the beginning. We still don't proclaim to know what we're doing because we are learning, and there are people who have been doing this for many decades that have so much to teach us, and we're humble enough to say we don't know it all. But we talked about the fact that if you want to get going in this thing, you just have to do it. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. Now, we have to give God all the glory because He's the one who gave the initial vision for the gardening anyway. And we just were obedient, and it's really been the best decision we've ever made. So I really consider it my duty to pass on to you what God did for me. This thing has blessed my life in so many different ways. There's been so many therapeutic aspects to this, and I haven't figured it out all the way scientifically and never probably will. But when the time of year comes to get my hands in that dirt, I get so excited, so eager, so expectant to be able to grow something. This year, I just went for it. If you listened a couple episodes ago, I believe I spoke about it. Like, I started going to the nursery and buying me my starters. I was like, I didn't have time to play around with seeds this year. I will, and I have for certain plants. But I did not want that to deter me this year because I'm waiting for the weather to break. In the meantime, I've been enjoying my nice, beautiful, crisp romaine lettuce salads. I have broccoli out there. I have some green tomatoes that are finally getting a little bigger. I have some squash that are growing in buckets out there. My strawberries are even starting to run and some are turning red. It is so exciting. I have some loose leaf oak leaf lettuce out there. Everything's coming alive out there. And so I want you to partake in this thing. I want you to get in the action, get in the mix, like get this thing going for yourselves. You can feed yourself healthily. You can know where your food is coming from. You can know that it's free of contaminants because you're growing it and you know what you're putting in it and you know what you're not. You know you're not using chemicals. You know that you're going to only use the best. And I think it's a great way to offer your family something healthy. In addition to offering your family something healthy, something happens. And my pastor said this to me. She said, something happens when people put their hands in the soil. Thank God I know Jesus because it has given me such a different relationship. Even with Jesus, I get to understand the gardener aspect of our God. And if we care for these plants the way we do, imagine how He's cultivating and shaping us and knowing when to water, when to prune, when to allow fruit to come forth, when to know that our roots are deep enough so that we can really put off the fruit that we're supposed to, when to kind of have us stall out a little bit because we're not as sturdy as we think we are, when we need to reach for more sun, when we need to have more watering, when we need to, all these things our God knows, and we get a little glimpse of that when we tend to the garden and when we keep it, because didn't He tell us that in Genesis? It has brought me closer to Him. It has caused me to be in awe of Him. And I want that for you guys. You have no idea how much this gardening has improved my life. It's therapy for me. And I say that all the time because I just know that our God knew that I could use this as therapy. It gets your mind off being connected and plugged in and checking your notifications and checking your text messages and checking YouTube. It gets your mind off of the digital world and allows you to unwind. And lastly, it gives you something to look forward to. Think about all the people who may not even have someone in their lives or may not have family or companions. They can get going and doing something that they then have to look forward to. This thing is bigger than we know, and it's a divinely orchestrated thing that God gave us this job to tend and keep the garden. Genesis 3:8 says, "And they heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day." So that's the first part of that verse. But can you imagine being in your garden and hearing the sound of the Lord God walking in your garden? That sounds a bit overwhelming to me. Just think about it. It's a place where you can pray. It's a place where you can just relax and just forget about the cares of the world. So I wanted to encourage all of you who say that you have a brown thumb, because I just don't believe that. There's just something that you have to choose that's the right thing for you to grow. Your hands were made to grow. Point blank, period. Well, guys, until next time, I want you to be intentional about those areas in your life where you are going to make room to grow.